501, the Warwick Finance Committee is open for business. May I have a motion for acceptance of the minutes for the committee meeting held on December 18th?
So moved.
I have a move in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. On to PCR 1-24. Happy New Year, everybody. Bid 2024-306 Alpha, City of Warwick, District 6, gasoline, low sulfur diesel, ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, DPW only. Good evening, Christy. Please identify.
Good evening, Christy Moretti, Public Works. Before I request, I need to make an amendment just to the vendors. There was a mistake in the bid minutes that was since corrected. Originally, I had awarded only to Dennis K. Burke. Then I thought I made an error, so I switched it to Global, who appeared to be a little bitter, but it is in fact Dennis K. Burke for all products for the Department of Public Works.
So for clarification, the recommendation that we have in our packet is the Global Montello Group and Dennis Burke. What you're requesting is to eliminate Global Montello and just keep it as Dennis Burke as the recommended.
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a PCR? Thank you. So to ensure that I'm doing this correctly, Solicitor, I'm going to continue with the questions and the conversation, and then I will ask for a movement on the PCR, and then as amended. Thank you, sir. Chrissy, continue. Thank you.
The Department of Public Works is requesting an award of $1.1 million for the purchase of diesel and unleaded fuel to Dennis K. Burke for a one-year period beginning April 10th, 2024 to April 9th, 2025.
Christy, what was the reasoning, if you could go in a little more detail, of why you had Global on the recommend and why you're asking to remove them?
Initially, when I received the bids, I had written a letter that was only for Dennis K. Burke. But then when I saw the bid minutes, I thought that I had made a mistake, so I revised my letter. But in fact, the unleaded for Global in the bid minutes said 0.02303, when it's in fact 0.2303. So that makes a big difference when it comes to the increment that we pay above the posted daily price, when Dennis K. Burke is only 0.0842.
Mm-hmm. Good move. Thank you. So those on the committee, if there are any further questions beyond those already asked? Thank you. Are there any questions, comments from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Christy, I'm looking at the bids here, and as you said, Global, at least in the document that I have, their price for unleaded is 0.2303. Is that actually their number, or is it something different?
That's the number that they submitted.
Okay. And with Dennis Burke has a plus 0.0842. Is Global's net cost to us 0.23, or is it 0.23 above today's numbers?
It's 0.23 So the formula is whatever the posted daily price is for the Port of Providence, and then we have to add an increment to it, so it would be plus 0.23. So it would be 23 cents instead of 8.
Okay, so they just eliminated the plus
Correct.
next to their number. So there's literally, what is that, 15 cents a gallon difference between the two?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good with that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any further questions, comments from members of the council? Are there questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you, Christie. Next is bid, correction, sorry. Thank you. May I have a motion on what formerly bid 2024-306 Alpha? That is now PCR 5-24 with amendment.
Move favorable action as amended.
Oh, with amendment first.
You want the amendment first?
We have to remove global.
Recommend the amendment to PCR 5-24.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have motion for PCR 5-24 as amended?
Move favorable action as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next would be bid 2024-306 Bravo. City of Warwick District 6 gasoline, low sulfur diesel, ultra low sulfur diesel fuel. This is for police. Good evening, Major.
Good evening. The police department went out to bid for gasoline. Bids were received from 5 vendors. The police department is recommending the bid be awarded to Dennis K. Burke of Taunton, as they were the lowest overall qualified bidder. The price would be for 1 year, the bid would be for 1 year beginning April 10th, 2024 and ending April 9th, 2025. Police department is seeking $405,000 in spending authority. If approved, funding would be drawn from Police Operating Budget Code 30-220 gasoline.
And Major, before I go on with the questions, would you please just identify?
Major Sullivan for the police department, sorry.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from members of this committee that haven't been asked already? Thank you. Are there any questions, comments from members of the council? Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, Major.
Good evening.
Major, what did you spend in this category last year or the last go-round?
So there's a couple of ways to separate it. So gallons per year in 2023 was 114,000 gallons. Actually 114,456. That was a gallon amount. If you'd bear with me, I'll get you the dollar amount. It was, looks like 263,427. That was beginning April 25th was our first delivery under the bid that's currently about to expire. And the last one was December 12th, the last delivery. So in that time, $263,427.
So from April to now, you spent 263,000.
Yes, that's within the bid period for the bid that's expiring in April.
Do you have more vehicles now than you had last year?
Maybe slightly more. Doesn't necessarily mean we have more vehicles on the road in operation. So it doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation to fuel usage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further questions, comments from members of this council? Questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. Thank you, Major. Bid 2024-305, frame grates and covers. Oh, I apologize. That's true. Thank you. We have come to the point where I will ask members of this committee, members of the council, and the members of the public if there's any items that they would like to speak to within the bid package. I will start with members of the committee.
Let's take up, 122-23.
I'm sorry?
It's
On the bid
the
package?
last,
I'm
the
sorry.
last one.
2024-051?
Yeah, that's
Okay, thank you.
sorry, that's
No,
that's what's being amended.
No worries.
Yeah.
Per request of committee member Councilman Gebhardt, 2024-051, computer hardware and related equipment. Are there any items members of the council would like to discuss? Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 2024-305, frames, grates, and covers.
Thank you, Mr. President. That is the next item up to be discussed is bid 2024-305. Members of the council. Councilman Lattisaur.
Thank you, Chairman. So the president took one of mine. That's okay. I would also like to have 2024-290, please, on page 7.
Thank you. 2024-290, found on page 7. So we'll go in order. It makes all the sense in the world. So next we'll start with bid 2024-305, frames, grates, and covers. Council President McAllister.
Thank you. Good evening, Christie.
Good evening.
Chrissy, could you please identify and
Christy Moretti, Public Works.
thank you. Council President.
Thank you. The reason why I pulled this is just that we see more and more with all these hard rain, there's all these different storms and stuff like that, how important these, manholes and catch basins and grates are to clear them out and keep going and stuff like that. How many do you expect? I don't know if you have an actual number, but it's to make repairs and stuff like that. This is an ongoing expense, and I just think it needs to have a little light on it because how important it is. Because we are seeing more and more with the storms. Just these regular rainstorms are just dumping so much rain. They're really overwhelming certain parts of the city. So I just want to highlight how important something like this is. So if you can just talk about the process a little bit, and that this is just to make repairs and to replace them. So it's not for the entire system, but this is part of the ongoing. This comes up every year.
Correct. Usually, we like to keep a half a dozen or so on hand in the yard, different sizes depending on what we might have to replace. Highway just submitted a list actually of about half a dozen that they would like to have on hand. Sometimes we do have emergencies where we need to go we've had some weird sizes come across. So we do have that as well, but the system is, the flush grates are the ones that mostly get clogged with leaves on top of them. But the drainage system is really what gets overwhelmed with water. So, if you've got 3 inches of rain coming down in 2 hours, it's not going to be able to handle it. If you have a 12-inch pipe or 18-inch pipe, all that. So that's why we have the ponding of the water. But we basically buy these on a regular basis, whether we have to install a new dry well, if we have to fix a catch basin or anything like that. Sometimes they go missing from the street.
Yeah, so it's relative. It's $15,000, but I mean it can have a major impact on the residents of Warwick, especially the people that live around there. We've seen in other cities whole apartment complexes they've had to move out because of infrastructure failures and stuff like that. So I just wanted to highlight that this is like an ongoing expense, and it's good that that Highway has a list and they're making this a priority because unfortunately we're seeing this more and more with storms. So thank you, Christie. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are there any questions from members of this committee?
Yeah,
Sorry.
not committee.
Are there any questions from members of the council? Councilman Sinapi.
Just one potentially quick one. Does this only include basically the metal components, the actual grates themselves, or the manhole covers?
Yes.
All right. Never mind then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lattiser.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Christie, I had called you earlier today, and I was questioning why you were going with or recommending Warwick Wind Water when they were higher than core. And I would ask for you to just give us the reason that you had stated, which obviously to me it made a lot of sense. But in this new process that we have with the bid package, which I refer to as seek and find, it makes it more difficult for the average person to perhaps find some of these things out. So could you just share that with members of the public, please?
We awarded Ferguson because they were the low bidder for the majority, if not all of the items. They're located in Canton, Massachusetts. We awarded Warwick Wind Water because they're located right here in Warwick. And we do have the 7% ordinance, and some of their items fall within that as well. But primarily, we requested Wind Water because they are here in Warwick. So should we have an emergency, Corn Means located in Norwood, Mass. So we're not chasing down whatever component we need and have an open hole, or so that's why we requested Wind Water.
And that makes sense. I'd also point out that the majority of those numbers from Warwick Wind Water, thanks to an ordinance that the chairman had passed, falls within that 7%. So anyhow, I just thought it was important that members of the public know the reason why that they were awarded this, or being asked to award this bid when they were actually higher. In essence, they were fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further questions, comments from members of the council? Are there questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. Next is bid 2024-290, paper and food products for Pilgrim Senior Center. Director Underwood, if you can identify. Councilman Lattiser, after her, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Meg Underwood, Director of Senior Services.
Good evening.
Good evening, Director.
Good evening.
I'm curious why you are recommending Delana Food when United Sales is between 60 and 62% cheaper on all of those items that you've requested a bid on. Out of the 27 items on my first sheet, United is cheaper on 17 of those items. You also indicated in your position paper, which I don't have anything here that expands on that, but you said that, however, in reaching out to Performance Food Service, we would not be able to meet their minimum orders. I don't see anything in here that speaks to their minimum orders. So my question to you is, it doesn't appear, at least in the bid documents that I have, that anything was discussed or conveyed by the vendors about any minimum requirements. So what prompted you to circle back to this vendor, or all the vendors, inquiring about a minimum order?
So the reason that we have so few bidders for the food and paper products is because we have such a hard time coming up with the minimums that they require. For instance, Gordon Food Service was a great vendor for us for years, but we cannot meet the minimums without a lot of waste. If I were to use United Paper, I would have to divide the bid into food and paper separately, and we would not be able to reach minimum bids or minimum amounts for orders for either of those individually. That's why they were eventually combined, so that we could meet those minimums. When I sat down with the kitchen manager and we went over to see if we could hit the minimums for performance foods, which was 20 items, and by item is a case, we would not be able to reach that without buying more than we needed and then having a lot of waste as a result when the perishable food went bad. Delana does not have a minimum, and we've been using them for a couple of years, and they've been very good to us. So that was the reason for my decision.
In your initial bid request, was there any language in that bid request that asked the vendors if there was any minimum requirements?
I don't believe there was. I think I just reached out to them individually.
When
After-
the vendors submitted their bids, in that submission, did any of those vendors specify at that time their prices were based on a minimum quantity?
They did not, Councilman.
So why are we being held to the fire when they bid with what you requested? They never indicated to you that there was any minimum requirements necessary to be able to do business with them. That doesn't make sense to me. Here it is after the fact, the bids have been opened, everyone is aware of what those numbers are, and now all of a sudden, these vendors say, oh, sorry, we need to have minimum requirements for you to be able to get these prices that we've provided. That doesn't make sense to me, why we are even entertaining that. Why is that?
It is my experience, regardless of who the vendor has been, that with food products, there is always a minimum. And perhaps you're right, perhaps we should put it in the next bid package. But that's the way it went out, and honestly, the way it's gone out for several years. And perhaps we should change it next time, but that is the reality of what I was able to find out from the different vendors.
Well, I think the city's being shortchanged because these vendors submitted a bid like the other vendors did. They never stipulated in that bid that, oh, by the way, you got to have 10 cases in order for us to give you this number. Now that the bids are out and they see that their numbers are relatively less than the other bidders, they say, oh, by the way, the city of Warwick, we forgot to tell you, there's a minimum requirement. That is, I've got specific words for it, but I'll say that is less than good business. And it would certainly need to be visited in a different way going forward so that we're not blindsided by a vendor that says, we decided our price is too cheap, so we're going to hold you to a minimum standard. That's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any further questions, comments from members of the council? Other questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Next is bid 2024-051, computer hardware and related equipment. This was requested by Councilman Gebhardt. Director, please identify, and then Councilman, you have the floor.
Phil Carlucci, IT Director.
Director, how are you?
Very good, sir. Yourself?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I was very excited to see a laptop on here for the new Warwick PAL director. What is the start date for that laptop?
I believe they've already started. We've gotten them a loaner to use in the meantime. There was some discussion that went around on exactly what was proper for the city to pay for and what PAL to pay for. So since this is all done off a grant, it was decided to charge to the grant. That's what delayed us in getting this in front of you. So we did set them up, but we're going to get them a new one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further questions from members of this committee? Questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion on the consent calendar?
I move favorable action on the consent calendar. PCR 1-24.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. May I have a motion for acceptance of the minutes for the committee meeting held December 18th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is PCR 2-24, resolution relative to abatements. Good evening, Director.
Good evening. Neil Dupuy, Director of Assessing. This month, we have abatements for you in the amount of $15,272.99. With the exception of 2 adjustments made by the Board of Assessment Review, they're all for new personal exemptions, but I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And I want to say, I've noticed, I know that I'm seeing that a majority of the abatements we're getting are beneficial. The discounts that our citizens have earned, whether it be veteran, whether it be senior citizen. So I want to thank you. There's no more of the cleaning up. I know after many years of you working diligently to clean up the record, all of this, with the exception of one within the Board of Review, all of it is qualifying exemptions. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions from members of this committee for the director?
Not for me. No.
Are there any questions from the director, from members of the council? Are there any questions for the director from members of the public? May I have a motion on PCR 2-24?
Move
Chairman,
I heard a voice.
Yes.
we have a request for the removal of the abatement number 172733. This is George Orison and Patricia Frazier in the amount of $138.40, so that Councilman Sinapi can abstain.
I thought we almost got away with it.
So if you could make that particular individual item a new PCR.
Certainly.
Make a recommendation on that first and then the balance.
So now we need to.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last comment.
If you would entertain a motion on PCR 6-24, the abatement of George Orison and Patricia Frazier in the amount of $138.40.
So just to reiterate, we're going to continue. This is still PCR 2-24. The amount will change, but we do not have to do an amendment on the amount because there are abatements. However, the PCR is for the part that Councilman Sinapi requested was withdrawn.
Yes, if we vote PCR 624 first, the balance will just get updated on the underlying resolution.
Certainly. So may I have a motion on PCR 6-24 in the amount of $138.40?
I move favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I'm just going to double check our numbers if I can have a moment, please.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to put my math on the table,
Go ahead.
PCR 2-24, the new amount would be $15,134.59.
I concur. Thank you. May I have a motion for favorable action on PCR 2-24 in the amount of $15,134.59?
I move favorable action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all so much. The time is now 5:30 and the Finance Committee is closed.
Public safety at 6:10.
The next meeting, committee meeting will be Public Safety, and that will start at 6:10. So we will see you at 6:10.
Mr. McElroy. Good evening. It is now 6:10. The Public Safety Committee comes to order. First order of business is acceptance of minutes from committee meeting held on December 18th. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
The one item of business in front of us tonight is PCR 3-24, resolution relative to traffic studies. This is to authorize the traffic studies as needed during the year. Do we have any comments from the committee? Comments from the council? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? Comments from the public? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
All in favor? Aye. Council meeting comes to adjournment at 6:10.
The next committee to meet is the intergovernmental, and that will start at 6:20. And that was the Public Safety Committee meeting that ended, not the council meeting.
I'm sorry. Was that me?
6:20 and the Intergovernmental Committee is now in session. First order of business is the acceptance of minutes from the committee meeting held on December 4th, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve?
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
First item on the agenda is CCR.
Great.
The first item on the calendar is PCR 139-23, a resolution relative to the omnibus withdrawal of docketed items undrafted, no longer relevant, necessary, or ready for action by current sponsors. Council President McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a bookkeeping exercise, so just looking to clear that out. And any item that's being withdrawn can be redocketed at any time by any council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the committee? Comments or questions from the council? Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Move favorable action.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. It is now 6:21 and the Intergovernmental Committee has adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next committee to meet is Public Properties, and that'll start at 6:40. So we will see you back here at 6:40.
Mr. Sinapi? No, Mr. Gebhardt. Mr. Gebhardt.
The time is now 6:40. The City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs comes to order. First, we have acceptance of minutes from the committee meeting held on December 18th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
All in favor?
Aye.
One item on the agenda, PCR 4-24, omnibus resolution of congratulations and condolences. This allows us to proceed with various resolutions of either congratulations or condolences throughout the calendar year. Any comment, members of the committee? Any comment, members of the council? Any comment, members of the public? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
All in favor? Aye. All right, the committee adjourns at 6:41 p.m.
Well done, good and noble service.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The council meeting will start at 7 p.m. We will see you back here at 7 p.m. Good evening, everyone. I call the January 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McAllister?
Here.
Mr. Foley? Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Here.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Here.
Mr. Ricks?
Here.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Councilman Lattiser, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright shines and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good evening again, and Happy New Year to everyone. First up is general communications. This is the announcements of congratulations, condolences, or community events. I have one. West Bay Community Action is having events to help you. If you have any issues with your heating bills, your electric bills, they are available. There are funds available for Warwick residents. So please contact West Bay Community Action. You'll see them out in the community during different community events as well. There are funds available to help pay for your utilities during the winter season here. So please reach out to West Bay Community Action. Are there any other general communications, announcements of congratulations, condolences, or community events, members of the council? Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. I was informed today that yesterday, Dolores Bergeron, a staple of the Warwick community, passed away yesterday in Florida while staying with her children. So if I may ask for a moment of silence for Ms. Bergeron.
Of course, we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Any other general communications from members of the council? Okay, next up on the agenda is a presentation from the Rhode Island Secretary of State's office regarding Rhode Island's 250th Commission. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Council President. My name is Lauren Fogarty, and I'm the Program Coordinator for the Rhode Island 250th Semi-Quincentennial Commission, or RI-250. I know it's a mouthful. Thank you for having me here today on behalf of Secretary of State Greg Amore and the historic city of Warwick to promote the creation of a local 250th committee. In 2026, we're set to mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. For some, this milestone may elicit memories of the excitement associated with the bicentennial period of our nation during the 1970s. I'm here today to bring attention to this tremendous opportunity for each community across the state and nation alike. RI-250 has been charged with developing ways to recognize and honor this anniversary in our state. The mission of the commission is to commemorate the 250th anniversary of our nation, the events throughout history in which our beautiful state has had a massive influence and our largely forgotten role in the formulation of our nation. Most notably, our contributions to the ideals of freedom, equality, and independence. We at the Commission are most excited to help facilitate this milestone's statewide and years-long, multifaceted commemoration, and we intend to engage as many Rhode Islanders as possible. And we believe that the natural next step is at the municipal level. One of the duties of the Commission is to collaborate with local organizations to promote the pivotal role that the state of Rhode Island has played in the founding of our country. And therefore, we would like to take this time today to invite Warwick, one of our oldest municipalities, to organize a local 250th committee that would encourage public participation, tourism, and strengthen our state pride. I've shared with your clerk a pamphlet provided by the Association for State and Local Histories, AASLH, who have taken the reins on this project at the federal level. Although this information is directed for a larger commission like RI 250, I think that the toolkit and resources that are provided are very helpful for this endeavor. The example of a working group seems like the best approach, and we usually recommend reaching out to local historical organizations that are active within your community. Our neighbors in South Kingstown have spent the last year celebrating their 300th anniversary. The programming, academic resources, and public engagement have been significant. The town marked this unique milestone with a lecture series on the town's history, large-scale bonfires, elevated regular events like the Arts and Culture Festival, and something that they like to call River Fire. The town will also install, or has installed, a 14-foot sculpture created in the likeness of their identity as a community and honoring their history. The opportunities are truly endless. Commemorative events like the semi-quincentennial can bring communities together and promote a stronger sense of identity. There is so much progress to celebrate. During my time with RI 250, many people reflect on the bicentennial period with fond memories, and I think that we can make this the best commemoration yet. Secretary Amore envisions coordinated projects with each municipality that can include a pop-up archives presentation. And today I brought a small collection of the formative documents of Warwick and a collection of photographs that are maintained by the State Archives. These documents can range from an act to incorporate the city of Warwick, paper money resolutions from Warwick, 1787, the votes of free men of Warwick, 1788, and photographs from across Warwick in the 1920s. This is an example of a type of display that can be curated at a Warwick at America's 250th event, of course, in coordination with the Rhode Island Department of State and State Archives. In addition, Secretary Amore hopes to coordinate projects similar to an evergreen one, which would be the planting of red maple trees in a city park or green space of your choosing. Today, I would like to invite you all to create a resolution and create a local 250th committee to mark this milestone and celebrate our state's history. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you. So we have that information from the clerk's office, and we will reach out if we have any questions. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Next up on the agenda is executive communications, a report from Mayor Picozzi regarding the activities at the RI TF Green International Airport. This will just be a report from the mayor. He will address the council, and then we will move to the next item. So, Mayor Picozzi.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the Honorable City Council. Since last week when I asked to present this report, circumstances have changed dramatically. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what's going on over the course of the last 3 years. About 3 years ago, a little less than 3 years ago, RIAC came to me and informed me of their plan to build a South Cargo facility. The initial meeting, Councilman Howe attended that meeting with me. They went over all their plans, and we talked to them about what we would like to see. I want to make it clear that the Airport Corporation in no way needs the city's permission to go forward with this facility. The planning director could speak more to that, but like I said, I want to keep this brief. we focused on a number of things, but two essential assets the city had was to keep all of the cargo truck traffic off of local roads. We already have too much traffic. We're building in the city center where we have 1,800 units coming soon. We just didn't want it. It was detrimental to the city. And Councilman Howe wanted a sound barrier built to protect that neighborhood from as much noise as possible. The airport corporation said they agreed and they promised to do it. When they submitted the FAA to the FAA, they submitted their plan. It didn't include either of those issues. So you understand, we were upset. We went to the airport. We asked them to sign an MOU. They declined. So at the suggestion actually of Mr. Zarum, we engaged an attorney. His name is Stephen Tabor. He's an expert and a former employee of the FAA. And we followed his recommendations, and he told us to submit, what do you call it? Sorry. For the FONSI, for FAA, would we support the correct term?
We file a petition for review.
Okay, yeah, a petition review with the FAA. I'm sorry, apologize. I can't see. You're right. There's no light in here, Ed. And we're not getting younger. So I want to skip ahead a little bit. I don't want to drag out everything, but RIAC informed our attorney, Mr. Tabor, they were not interested in MOU. They would wait for the results of the finding. So some time went on. We went to our congressional delegation for their help. We asked them to intervene with the FAA. They sent us a joint letter declining to get involved. They said they couldn't get involved in a court action, which it really wasn't. It was for a review. So we went back and forth. We asked for the MOU, and about 3 weeks ago, the president, Iftikhar Ahmed, I think his name is, sent us an email. He CC'd all of you and pretty much every elected official in the United States and parts of Canada, saying that we promised to do that and now you have it in writing. That wasn't good enough. There were no specifics. It wasn't a legally binding document. We kind of took this as a glimmer of hope that they wanted to talk again, so we sent our own MOU. It was spelled out, especially those two issues. They accepted it. We were supposed to have a meeting. I had a meeting with the governor previous to that. They ended up canceling the meeting. So in the intervening days, they contacted us and they said they had a ruling from the FAA disapproving their pilot monies that they pay to the city, $500,000 every year. The FAA disapproved it. They said, we don't provide the services. The FAA, I questioned the material they gave for the audit. I questioned the purpose of the audit. It just seems kind of random, and it seemed kind of coincidental. So anyways, they said they were going to stop payments immediately to the city. So I went to Speaker Shekarchi and I went to the governor. I had gone to him about this issue before, but they really said it wasn't something that involved them. Well, once they found out they had to find $500,000 in their budget, they got very involved. I met with the governor on that Wednesday, and Representative Joe McNamara came with me, and I'll get to him later. And we talked about a lot of things, but we talked about this pilot money. There's a state law that guarantees that the city gets this pilot money, even if it's disapproved by the FAA, from the state. That's why the speaker and the governor are concerned. And they said that they would tell RIAC, they have, I think, a 60-day period to appeal, if you will, to present comments. So they were going to pressure them to do it. And they weren't happy, and they said they were going to take the $500,000 elsewhere out of their funding. So Warwick is still whole for that. And I'll get to this a little bit later, too. So as I said, the first meeting that the president was willing to meet with me face-to-face, they canceled it. They said they couldn't solve it logistically, even though the meeting had been made a week ahead of time. They said they were going to send us, they were willing to do the MOU, and they were going to send us an amended MOU. And I'm sure you saw in the press when I said it was a joke, because the MOU guaranteed nothing. It said, I'll paraphrase, it said, they're going to put the trucks out onto Main Avenue in phase 1, and then in phase 2, they would take an assessment whether it would be beneficial to the facility to keep the traffic on the airport and put it onto the airport connector, which why wouldn't it be? Why would it be? Because they're already getting their rents. And then they said, if the funding's available and if RIAC approves, then we'll do it. So it was no promise. It was none at all. It was maybe a glimmer of hope. They did the same thing with the sound barrier. So I basically, I don't want to say it, but I want to stay cordial, but I told them it was unacceptable. Then they requested a staff level workshop to craft a new one. And I said we would only do it if the president of RIAC and myself were in the room. And I hadn't heard from them. As of last Friday, it was a standoff. Nothing was going on. And yesterday morning, we got back to work at 9:10 a.m. They sent us an MOU with everything we've asked for. I've had it reviewed by the solicitor. He said it's solid. And the president signed it. They requested I sign it. I won't sign it until the RIAC board ratifies in January 11th. So I don't know what prompted that, what happened over the weekend, but I'm happy. I mean, you know, I've heard from residents that we should have, bless you.
Thank you.
I've heard from residents that we should have asked for more, but I think we've done all we can, and this was a 3-year fight. The cargo facility, it's a fact of life. That's what's going to happen at the airport. People have said I'm in favor of it. I'd rather it didn't exist. I'd rather the airport wasn't in Warwick, but it's inevitable. And the airport's important to our economy and the state's economy. My job and your job is to lessen the impact on the quality of life as much as possible in Warwick, and I think we've done it with this. This is probably the first fight that the city's ever won with RIAC. So I will sign the MOU. This is not a normal MOU. This doesn't, per solicitor, this doesn't come before the city council because the city council is not obligated to do anything and there are no expenses here. This is just the airport corporation codifying their promises. Now, we have to grant an easement for their construction, and that does come before the city council. So you'll have a voice there. And the easement is for the sound barrier. And that'll be coming to you. Any estimate?
It'll be coming to my office, I would say within a month. There are old rights of way, so those sections of the rights of way simply have to be abandoned to accommodate the noise wall. So.
And I would refuse to bring those before the council before this was settled. Okay, now some other parts of this. We did a lot of research on this, especially when the FAA disapproved our pilot money, because to me, the pilot money is not just for providing EMA and fire services, it's payment in lieu of taxes. They occupy a lot of real estate and work, and they've taken more and more over the years, and we've lost that revenue. So to me, they're property owners that don't pay anything. So reviewing the state law, it's Rhode Island General Law 1-2-17 that spells out a lot. It says, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I can't read. Basically, and I think I sent this to you. If not, I apologize, I will. Basically, in 1994, the General Assembly made a law that they had to pay $275,000 per year to the city of Warwick in pilot money. Then after 1994, the sum could be reviewed and renegotiated, or both by the mayor of the city of Warwick and the airport corporation, but in no event will the sum be less than, after 1994, $500,000. Also in this state law, it says the year beginning before 2005, so in other words, 2005 and on, the city was supposed to be receiving $750,000, and they never have. So by my accounting, according to the state law, the airport corporation seems to owe us about $4.5 million. And I'm going to explore getting reimbursed for that. It's going to the solicitor. He doesn't see, it can't be paid any other way. It has to come directly from the airport corporation. And we have no record of them ever giving us more than $500,000. So we're going to get back to you on that. We're going to research it. I'm going to try to get that money back. And we'll be coming to you again in the future. Also, as I said, doing the research, we kept digging and digging. It seems that way back when in the Articles of Incorporation of RIAC, Actually, in a conversation with Speaker Shikachi, he said he believes that the mayor got an appointment to the RIAC board. I'd never heard of it, so we did the research. In the Articles of Incorporation of the Airport Corporation, there were originally 5 members of the RIAC board. Four were appointed by the governor and 1 by the Warwick mayor. Some years later, they made a state law that restructured it. They increased it to 7 members, and they took away the mayor's appointment. It was all governor appointments. So digging further, we found a proposed bill in 2002 by State Rep Joseph McNamara. And if you know your Warwick history, you'll see the other names, Representative Norm Nickel and the late Paul Sherlock. And Representative McNamara back then, he realized that Warwick needed a voice on the board, and he put this in for the Warwick mayor to have 3 appointments. So I called him up and we discussed it. And he said it was still very important that we had a voice, and he said he would be more than happy to submit that bill. Well, he'd done some work on it, and he said that he didn't think that the speaker or the governor would support more than 1. I guess he had conversations. One's better than none, but I called the speaker and said, we're looking for a voice, not a whisperer, and he told me to talk to the governor, and I did, and I went with Joe McNamara, who I've earned a lot of respect for with this because he's been truly my one ally in this. He went to the governor's office, he's spoken with me, we've spoken on the phone. He's putting this bill in sometime in January. It will probably be 1 member, but 1 is better than none. It's a good starting point. He'll be coming, or we'll be coming to the city council for a resolution endorsing it, and we're going to ask people to go from this floor to go up there and testify, and people in the audience too. It's Warwick really needs to have a voice on that board, even if it's just 1. It's a good starting point. So we'll be coming to that with you in the future. As I said, I'm going to be signing the MOU after RIAC approves it. And that's pretty much all I have for you. I know I've kept you up to date with emails, but I'm not a big fan of typing, so I make it kind of short. I just wanted to come and give you this report in person. Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Tom? Okay. I'm sorry I took this long. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up on the agenda is A, the acceptance of the minutes from the council meeting held on December 18th. Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action on the minutes.
Second by Councilman Foley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Next up on the agenda is the announcement of appointments. Councilman Gephardt, I believe there is 2 announcements of appointments this evening.
There are. There's one to the Building Board of Appeals, one Tammy Bouchard Baker Esquire. The second is the Tree Warden, Carlos Pinero, to that post.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Gephardt. Number 2 this evening is appointments requiring confirmation. There are none. So we'll move to item number 3, which is the consent calendar. First up is PCR 1-24, resolution relative to bids. Committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bid 2024-306 Bravo, bid 2024-305, bid 2024-290, bid 2024-051. That concludes the consent calendar on the bids.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on the consent calendar for the bids? Okay. Number 2 this evening is PCR 2-24, a resolution relative to abatements. Committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley. And the amount, Councilman Howe?
Thank you, Mr. President. PCR 2-24 is in the amount of $15,134.59.
Okay. Any questions on this item, PCR 2-24, resolution relative to abatements? That was not asked earlier this evening in committee. Okay. Number 3 is PCR 3-24, a resolution relative to traffic studies committee report, public safety.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman Foley.
Move favorable action on PCR 3-24.
Second by Councilman Ricks and Councilwoman Travis and Councilman Gephardt. Any questions or comments on this that were not asked earlier this evening in committee? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to number 4 on the consent calendar, which is PCR 4-24, omnibus resolution of congratulations and condolences, committee report, community affairs.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman Ricks.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley, Councilman Howe, Councilwoman Travis. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier in committee? Okay, hearing none, are there any questions or comments on the consent calendar as a whole? Okay, it has been moved and seconded, so the clerk will call the roll for favorable action on the consent calendar.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy? Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, consent passes.
Thank you, consent passes. I believe 2 items were removed from the consent calendar. First off is bid 2024-306A, which is now PCR 5-24, committee report, finance.
Favorable action with amendment.
Okay, for action, Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action with amendment.
Councilman Foley seconds. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Formerly bid 2024-306 Alpha is the District 6 gasoline, low sulfur diesel, ultra low diesel, with an amendment to remove global from the bid package. And that is now PCR 5-24.
Okay, it's just removing global from the bid package.
Yes.
The bid. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in the Finance Committee? Okay, hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action on the amendment. Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes to amend.
Thank you. Councilman Howe.
Move PCR 5-24 as amended. Favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action as amended.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy? Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Motion passes. The second item that was taken off the consent calendar, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is an abatement with PCR 6-24 in the amount of $138.40. Favorable action.
Okay, and do we have a second on that motion? Second by Councilman Foley. And again, the number is $138.40.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, any questions or comments on this? I believe we'll have one abstention on this. So the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy? Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstention, motion passes.
Thank you. Motion passes. We're now moving on to unfinished business. There is none. So we're moving to new business. First up is PCR 139-23, resolution relative to omnibus withdrawal of docketed items. Committee report, intergovernmental.
Recommend favorable passage, Mr. President.
For action, Councilman McElroy.
Move favorable passage.
Second by Councilman Howe, Councilman Foley, and Councilman Gephardt. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in the intergovernmental committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Yes.
9 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Motion passes. We're now moving to unanimous consent. Ward 1, anything to docket under unanimous consent?
Pass.
Ward 2.
Pass.
Ward 3.
Pass.
Ward 4. Ward 5.
Pass.
Ward 6.
Pass.
Ward 7 passes. Ward 8. Ward 9. Councilwoman Travis.
If there be no further business from the honorable body, I move to a docket session.
All those in favor of moving the docket session, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now in the docket session. Ward 1, anything to docket this evening?
No, thank you.
Ward 2,
Pass.
Ward 3,
Pass.
Ward 4,
Pass.
Ward 5,
Pass.
Ward 6,
Pass.
Ward 7, I have one, a resolution relative to the Rhode Island Airport Corporation, intergovernmental. Ward 8, Ward 9. All right, thank you very much. We are adjourned. Happy New Year, everyone.